Sorry. This is our 19th in-person meeting and first of 2026. The Commission generally meets every other month on the third Tuesday of the month. The schedule and tentative agenda can be obtained by contacting the city's planning division or by visiting the city's website at minnetonkamn.gov. Residents can provide input on tonight's agenda via email or provide input tonight during this meeting if so desired. The Sustainability Commission's first meeting was May of 2021. Since then, we've accomplished a significant number of useful and practical actions for city residents. Areas of review for the Commission include air, water, energy, land, ecological resources, recycling, and I'm pleased to say, which includes organics collection, waste management, and other areas related, and other sustainability areas not addressed by city code or another city advisory group. The Sustainability Commission has a unique role here in Minnetonka, as we serve both as an advisor to the City Council and as ambassadors for city programs. As an advisor to the City Council, the Sustainability Commission makes recommendations on city plans, policies, procedures, programs, practices, and proposals that relate to sustainability and conservation of our natural resources. Final decisions are then made by the City Council, not the Sustainability Commission. As an ambassador, the Sustainability Commission attends events to promote city initiatives with the public. And with that, I would like to move to agenda item number 2, which is roll call. Ms. Sutherland, would you please? Oh.
I will call, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Carr is absent. Henry?
Here.
Ingham? Here. Ingraham is absent. Meyer?
Here.
Norman is absent. Patain?
Here.
White?
Here.
Golub?
Here. Thank you. There are 7 of us tonight. 6, sorry. I can't pronounce. I can't spell. I can do math, but I couldn't tonight. Thank you. Next is approval of this agenda for our January 20th, 2026 meeting, which is agenda item number 3. Staff, do you have any change orders? No?
No.
Very good, thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
I have one simple change.
Yes.
I referenced the QR code for registration, and it was probably a typo. It said QRO code, so.
This is for the minutes, I think she's talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you for taking care of it.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, would someone like to make a motion to approve the January 20
I'll make
minutes?
the motion.
And I second.
Very good. Staff, would you poll the commissioners?
Henry?
Yes.
Ingham?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Patain?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chair Golub?
Yes, the motion passes. Thank you. Excuse me. Next is approval of the November 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any changes? No? That we haven't already said? Okay, very good. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from from November 18th.
All motion?
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Very good. Staff, would you poll the commissioners?
Henry?
Yes.
Ingham?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Patain?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chair Golub?
Yes, thank you very much. With that, we are moving on to our agenda items. Before we start, I'd like to do a quick review of the steps for each one. And prior to that, I simply want to mention 2 items that one of our commissioners is scheduled to attend his last meeting, which is Commissioner Henry. We will, if in fact that's the case and he's not able to continue on, we will miss his insightful thinking and questions, and he's been a tremendous asset to the commission and to the city of Minnetonka. So we want to thank you very much for your hard work.
Well, thanks, Chair. Thanks, everybody else. It's been an honor to serve on the Sustainability Commission. And the reason for my departure is I've been on the Planning Commission for 8 years, and after 2 terms, that's enough, I think, for any office, elected or otherwise. So hopefully everybody can adhere to that one as well. But I'm not sure. We're going to talk to the city and see if that pertains to my time on the Sustainability Commission too. I've been here as of, I think the 4 of us have been since the inception, since the first meeting in May of 2021. So 5.5 years is great. Yes, that's how much we've been on it. And if I can serve some more, I'd love to. But if not, then I'd happily open my space for somebody else.
Thank you, Commissioner Henry. Thank you. One additional item I'd simply like to mention. This is a personal observation. It does not represent my fellow commissioners, nor does it represent any comments or position from the city of Minnetonka. But in light of what the state of Minnesota has experienced recently with regard to the behavior of ICE agents and people being extremely unhappy, our hearts and our thoughts are with folks who have been assaulted, perhaps picked up, who are American citizens. And I think all of us understand the need for the organization of ICE, but I think a lot of us would say that the people that are getting picked up and arrested are not violent criminals. They're not criminals at all. And we hope that this chapter in Minnesota's history will end soon, and no one else will be hurt or injured or traumatized by what's going on. So those are my personal comments. Enough from the politics. Let me briefly go over the procedure tonight. I will ask staff to present their report to the Sustainability Commissioners. I will ask each of the Sustainability Commissioners to ask clarifying questions of our staff. If no one has registered to comment during the meeting, I will then open and immediately close the public input portion for the agenda topic. If an agenda topic is informational, and as they are tonight, items 5A, B, and C, we will provide feedback to staff, and then no vote is required by the Sustainability Commissioners. We will then move on to the next agenda item. I'll make final comments, and then we'll continue on. So with that, I will turn over the meeting to Ms. Sutherland to go to item 5A. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chair Golub and Commissioners. Our first item tonight is item 5A. It's a discussion on the Climate Action Plan, Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, otherwise referred to as our CAP. It's an implementation update. So the staff recommendation for this item is for the Commission to provide feedback and to ask questions on the update I will provide today. So you can just keep that in mind. An overview, so first I'll give a brief overview of the September and November 2025 Sustainability Commission meetings, what we reviewed at those meetings, a recap of the draft 2026 work plan, specifically item number 1, and that was recommended by the Sustainability Commission at the November meeting. as this item pertains to that item 1 of the work plan. And then item 3 will be to just review the implementation updates that I've been working on, the commission's been working on. And then item 4 within this is the just collecting questions and feedback from commissioners. Just gotta get my notes set over here. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so reviewing the past meeting. So in September and November, the commission talked about the 2026 draft Sustainability Commission work plan. So in September, staff provided the draft work plan, and that was based on the city's sustainability work plans in general, primarily the CAP. So each item said, a statement of what the commission will do. It included a target, and then we also noted what that action referred to. That draft was brought to the commission as a way of just requesting the commission to build upon it, to ask for feedback, to make edits as needed. We went through a Menti information or thoughts collection process, which was pretty fun. The commission, participated through that, and we also had discussion. And then based on those comments at the November meeting, I brought a revised draft for the commission to make comments on, and there were a few minor revisions made at that meeting. So with those revisions, the commission recommended City Council approval of that draft work plan. And you'll hear me probably refer to that work plan as draft a few times tonight because it actually is still in draft form. The City Council will review the Sustainability Commission 2026 work plan as well as all of the commission's work plans, the commissions that have those work plans, at their February 2nd meeting. So it's possible that the council might make slight revisions or changes, but they will be reviewing and considering that for approval in February. So, in terms of the 2026 work plan that was included in those previous packets, item number 1 was to review biannual CAP implementation updates from staff and to make comments and suggestions. And then the target was to do that biannually in both January and July. So that's why we are meeting tonight, and this is what that item is on. Sure. So item number 1, we really started out with the implementation, I guess at the start of the approval in 2024 when the CAP was actually approved. Since then, we've moved into this implementation. We've been working on climate action, for decades, as we reviewed in November, but once staff, myself, was onboarded in December, we've taken a look at this plan and say, how can we implement the strategies included in here? So there's 50 strategies within this document. We've transformed them into an actionable roadmap, implementation roadmap, if you will. We have the policy direction. Now we need to know, okay, how can we hit the ground running and actually implement this plan? So we were doing that over the last year by breaking down all of these 50 strategies into clearly defined tasks. We assigned staff lead, we assigned a priority, we also assigned a tentative start date for each of these. And that's what we reviewed at the November meeting, if you recall. So item 1 also includes that we'll talk about these tasks in a phased approach, and so we've included them in the work plan by quarter, and that's to support this coordinated execution by myself, but this is also, a staff-wide initiative as well. So we're breaking it out by quarter, and it also accounts for just staffing capacity within each quarter. And then in terms of prioritization, the process that I've currently been following is the 3 steps. So we're starting with more of the administration phasing. So this is tasks that include fundamental administrative roles, so like the work plan development, like we've been talking about the last quarter, and then tonight as well, working on tracking documents, like what does this look like internally and for the commission, and actually externally as well for tracking. Training that I'm going through as the lead of the project management process, and then also just looking at like our public platforms for resource sharing as just like a fundamental task that we really need to make sure that's all squared away. Then once we have all the administrative important documents set aside, then we can start looking at our existing actions. So within the CAP, out of the 50 strategies, there's quite a big handful of actions that we're actually already doing. You might recall, I'm seeing some nods, and this is just a way of saying, yes, we're already doing this, but can we collect more background to figure out, do staff need more support? How can they keep going? How can they expand upon what they're doing? And as a new staff member, I just hit my 1-year mark. I don't have a lot of this background. So my process is to go through and collect that and make sure I can support them and figure out kind of next steps for their work. And that's also not just for other people's work, but there are some existing actions that community development is doing as well. And then lastly, this is looking more into quarter 3 and 4 and then 2027 as well. New actions. So there's a lot of new actions included in the CAP that are suggested. And so we're going to be reserving those, like starting to think about implementation later on once we have everything else squared away. And I say I have currently, formatted a bit different on this slide because I think that this prioritization process will change come later this year and in 2027. Once we're only working on new actions, then we have to start thinking about like, okay, so now we have this whole set of new actions. How do we decide on a priority for those? So that time will come, but this is the process that we're using currently. And okay, so for the CAP updates, this might look familiar. I shared this at the November 18th Sustainability Commission meeting. This is just a subset of that Gantt chart that I created. This is a way I'm keeping track of what we're working on and what we have worked on. So I'll go through and kind of give some highlights as what the last quarter of 2025 looked like and what quarter 1, so January through March of 2026 will look like. So strategy 33, I'm just going to go down the line, was to host a website dedicated to climate action resources and updates. So an update on this is that I'm working with our communications staff and they're updating the Sustainable Minnetonka website. So right now we have a ton of resources on that page. We're just going to go through, clean it up, make sure everything is up to date, most valuable. We likely will be consolidating pages. Some other divisions have actually gone through and kind of almost have a different style for their pages that is a bit more user-friendly. So our page is going to be converted to that as well. If you want to go on our website, the Public Works Department already has that kind of design, so that's what we'll be moving to. So once those website updates are done, I will share that with the commission, and I'd love to have your feedback on any additional updates. But for now, we just need to go in and clean them up. We've also talked about how to utilize Minnetonka Matters as another platform for the CAP outreach and engagement. If you recall, the city actually used that during the stakeholder engagement process. So that was the platform where we had comments. People could submit public comments on there. The planning department uses this for their development projects. So when they're collecting public comment outside of a meeting, people can submit their feedback on there. There's a lot of interactive options where we could do surveying, for example. If we were out at a community event, we have a table, we can link people to that site through a QR code. I think there's a lot of potential there. So we're trying to figure out how can we use our main Minnetonka page as maybe more of like a resource, more formal hub, and this Minnetonka Matters page is more of a way to gain interactive experiences, gain participation, also potentially linking out to other data sources, regional indicator information that we'll be talking about in a bit here. But updates on that, but that's a pretty fun project, I would say. And again, these pages will link together. Sorry, Commissioner, did you have a question? Oh.
I did. If it's okay with the chair, a couple of questions. Ellie, you mentioned about Sustainable Minnetonka and cleaning that up. Mm-hmm. Does the city have identified a resource to dedicate time on a continuous basis to make sure that remains current?
Yeah, so that would be me. Well, myself and really fortunately, we actually do have a communications staff who who is dedicated actually to sustainability updates, which is really cool. So they have, I have a few communications staff in their division, and I work with John specifically on this, and I meet with him actually every 2 weeks. So he's very in touch with our needs. So right now, our pages, I would say, need a pretty decent overhaul, so it's just a bigger undertaking. But the hope is that once we get to a point where they're all up to date, it'll be very minor updates and much easier to kind of keep up on. So that's kind of where we're at now. But great question.
Thanks. And the plan going forward is to keep Sustainable Minnetonka as the base website for all things on the commission?
Yes, another great question, and something that we don't have, a final answer to, but as I've surveyed other staff and leadership, the consensus is that we like the Sustainable Minnetonka branding for climate action and adaptation planning work. I think of it more as Sustainable Minnetonka has more of like the program, right? And then we have smaller projects that fall under that, and the climate action and adaptation one is maybe one project. Then we have our solid waste management programming, let's say. That could be another component of this larger Sustainable Minnetonka program. So that's what we're thinking. I think it's also a bit more inclusive. People, I think it's not maybe as polarizing as some of the climate conversations that can go on. So we want to get as many people on board with this work, and what I'm hearing is Sustainable Minnetonka kind of helps with that. So it's not to say it's finalized, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thanks. It's a admittedly small sample size, but a lot of people that I talk to, they're aware of Sustainable Minnetonka. So
okay.
I'm glad there's a push, or at least to preserve that site.
Good feedback. Any other questions before we move on? Oh, yeah.
One observation and suggestion, on the mobile platform of the website, there are a dozen icons that pop up, including sauna in the parks and things that might be actionable immediately. And that would be an ideal place to have Sustainable Minnetonka icon. Rather than having to search for it through government, Sustainability Commission.
Yeah, great
So,
feedback. Are you
to bring
talking
it
about
forward.
the homepage?
The homepage.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, great feedback. That's obviously a conversation for our communications staff, but I like where you're thinking, so I'll talk to John about
The
that.
more forward
I'm
we
sure
could bring
everyone,
it.
asks for that, but
Right.
we can put our hat in the ring too, right? Any other
Thank
thoughts
you.
or comments? Okay. So that's where we're at with the website. As stated, we're just starting to work on this. So as updates come about, I will share those with you. But just want to get those squared away before we really get more into the implementation phase. So strategy 37, this is to create a business recognition program. So my consensus is that the Sustainable Minnetonka Awards program is the program currently in which businesses are awarded for climate action and adaptation plan related actions. My recommendation as staff is to continue considering that our business recognition program. If you want, I can go into some of the reasonings, but the main is that really it serves the purpose. I think the biggest and easiest way to describe it is like, what would be the value of creating a whole separate program? And at this moment in time, I think there's a lot of drawbacks to having two programs, and I really can't identify any benefits. So for that reason, even though it says to create a business recognition program, my argument would be that we already have that. And instead of creating a second program, let's figure out how to potentially update the existing program that we have and, continue to align it with the new CAP. And if there's ways of just improving upon that. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm seeing head nods, so it looks like hopefully the commission would agree with that. And I will also say that in my short time of being here, we've actually continued to make some of those improvements already. Like last year, we separated out the residents and businesses so we can award both sectors, which I do think is in alignment with the cap to say we want both residents and businesses to participate equally. So we've made that update. And then we also, last year, we made it to be a bit broader. So anyone that's applying is being recognized, which I think also is in alignment with how we're branding the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan to say, hey, it doesn't have to be a big financial investment type of project. It can be smaller, everyday committed actions that also make a difference, which is what we're trying to now change or at least update some of the messaging for the awards program. So we can, again, continue to work on that. It's definitely not like we're done here, but that's kind of where we're at right now with where that action stands. And that program is going to go live, I guess. Well, the applications you can apply right now. So I'll do a quick plug. You can apply for the Sustainable Minnetonka Awards currently. The application is live. Go to the minnetonkamn.gov website, search Sustainable Minnetonka Awards. Application is on there. It's a very short form. We will be accepting applications until March 6th, and then the commission will review those applications on March 17th. So, yeah. Next is the, strategy 51 and 51, and that is to develop near-term and long-term work plans, and that was actually a strategy that I added, so it's, I guess, an informal strategy, but one I think that's important. Sorry, yep.
Ally Chair, just a procedural question. Would you like feedback on every one of these? You asked a question about whether the commission thought that
Sure.
the Sustainability Minnetonka Awards would be better just to keep it one award versus two, and you said you saw nods.
Yeah.
Do you need some affirmative discussion about that, or to say that, what do you think, commission, and then we should voice our support or not
Sure.
support of it?
Yeah.
Or-
If you want to ask a question, I would ask for the floor from our chair, and he will grant that as you'd like. So yes, we can certainly go through the process of collecting feedback if you'd like. So
If I could also just add and make sure that I understand also, Ms. Sutherland, is that we're essentially, these work plan items are already in the work plan. So it's not a matter of whether or not we want these items to remain in the work plan. It's just if you have questions or comments about how they should go moving forward. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that clarifies it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
okay. Okay, so strategy, the 51 is to develop near-term and long-term work plans. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We have the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. Now we're just figuring out how do we implement it. So essentially, that's exactly what we're doing tonight. This is the first time we're actually utilizing this work plan. And we've also matched or tried to align the Sustainability Commission work plan to connect to the staff implementation work plan too. So that's exactly what we're doing here tonight and what we worked on last quarter. So 51 is in the works. 52 is also essentially what we're doing right now, just working on reporting processes. So item 1 within the Sustainability Commission work plan is to receive these updates from staff in January and July. So we'll continue doing this at those times. We're also going through a revised annual report process for the council, which is a document created by the Community Development Department. And we've kind of followed the same process year after year, is my understanding, with just some high-level updates. But we're trying to rethink it, and how do we be a little bit maybe more creative, talk a bit more about impacts in terms of measurable data. So that's something I'm working on, and I actually will be sharing some of those measurable metrics, if you will, in the next couple slides. So stay tuned on that. And again, with incorporating some of these updates to the website, some of that will also think about how do we report this out to the public too. So not just internally, not just to the commission, but through Minnetonka Matters, how can we make this interactive and interesting to the public so that other people can stay involved? Because we know, as we've talked about many a times, these are not just municipal actions. We also want to, reach out and determine how businesses are interacting and how residents are participating too. Strategy. Oh, so the next one is training. And again, that's related to reporting. I'm going through a project management training type of course. So it's just trying to make sure that I'm using the most efficient processes and tools available. So it's something that, I've maybe self-trained to some extent, like I'm sure we all have. But it's also a whole skill that, people learn too. So I'm taking a bit more formal training on that. And I've only taken a few courses and I'm already pretty amazed at what there is to learn. So if I learn any tips, I will share those with you all too. But you'll probably see those pop up as we go on here. And then lastly, this whole section, so there's an internal coordination item, the row, and then everything that follows underneath it, really, I'm just going to box together and say these are all related to internal coordination. The ideal situation here is that these are all existing actions, again, that the city is doing to some capacity, some maybe more than others. Some examples here are natural resource related items, emergency response items, and then water resources is something that pops up a lot. So of course, the city is already very invested and does this as a day-to-day operations, but the question is how can we align it or support it better so that it also aligns and supports our CAP. So to do this, I think what I'm going to do is set up one-on-one meetings with these divisions, and then from there assess what that ongoing set of communication is. And my hope is that I can kind of find like a point person per each division and then be able to meet more holistically with that group on a quarterly basis going forward. But for now, I'm going to be doing these one-on-one meetings. So in March, I'll probably be able to update you on some of those. But yeah, I think there's 23 different actions within this section right here, so we're actually making pretty good headway, assuming we work on all of these over the next quarter as proposed. Oh, and then I did want to call out, one of the actions is 34, it's towards the bottom, host outreach activities. That's where the commission comes in heavily. So your entire 2026 Sustainability Commission work plan is supporting that. So it's funny to me when I look at this list because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all 50 actions and none of them are what we're doing. We're doing so much work for the commission and all of the outreach, but really all of your work falls under that one row. So we want to do a good job and make sure that, we're showcasing all the work you're doing. It's certainly not just one row of effort. So, but I did want to highlight that. That's where the commission comes into play. The next item, so this is, the next couple slides are about impact of the implementation that we've done and that we're going to continue measuring. So if you recall, this is the Regional Indicators website. It's a greenhouse gas emissions inventory for particularly Minnetonka is what I have selected here. We have data from 2007 through 2021. The city, I believe, paid for this data, and LHB is the consultant that collects and tracks this data. You can see it's broken down by waste emissions, travel emissions, and energy. Energy, you can see, tends to be the greatest proportion, followed by travel, and then waste. And you can normalize this by per capita, so per household or per business as well. This screenshot is just not normalized, so it's the total community-wide greenhouse gas emissions. We are working with LHB right now. We've requested data from 2022 through 2024, so they're working on that. Once that's available, I will share that with the commission, and then LHB will put this on their website. This is a public website. Anyone can interact with this. You can select multiple different cities, so it's not just Minnetonka that has the greenhouse gas data. 2025 data will be available sometime later this year. It just lags for all their data sources, so it just takes a bit of time to get that. I did link the website in case you want to see this particular page. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on here to say, but it's a pretty fun website. It's actually quite interactive, so you can highlight over the different bars to see it broken down. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The LHB was actually one of the consultants that helped us with our climate action and adaptation plan, which is really great because this data was used in our plan, so it matches their data sources here, which isn't always the case. Even though they produce this data for other communities, not all communities actually used them for their climate action planning. So I think it's pretty unique and helpful that they're the same consultants that we worked with. So aside from greenhouse gas emissions data, I'm also going through the process of trying to determine what other metrics can we use to report on our progress for our plan. And as far as I'm aware currently, there isn't anything in the CAP that actually defines that other than, you know, our overarching goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 63% per capita, right? So I think there's a lot of other performance metrics we could be considering to track, and I've collected a couple here. Some of these we actually are already collecting through Green Step Cities, if you're familiar or remember that program. Other ones we're collecting already for the strategic plan reporting that we do for city council priorities. So I'll go through these. Renewable energy. Some data points that I've collected are off-site subscriptions for renewable energy. So this would be if you participate in community solar gardens, otherwise known as CSGs, or Renewable Connect through Xcel Energy. Their data lags as well. So when we report in 2024, it's actually 23 data, but in 2023, we had just over 3,000 participants in that for residential. And for businesses, we had about 177. And I will mention on here, because there aren't any notes, it doesn't necessarily mean there's 177 businesses participating. It means there's 177 participants collectively within each of these programs. And so one business, for example, could participate in Renewable Connect and a solar garden, I believe. So I think that's a little tricky. We don't have that fully fleshed out. We can't see unique IDs, I guess, because the utility provides this and there's data privacy there. But I think it still is it gives us a comprehensive look at the community. So the ideal scenario is that, you know, if we focus on promoting these over year, we potentially see some growth. People do pay for that though, you know, so that's an additional expense on their bill. On-site solar arrays for residents, we had 44 more in 2025 than 2024 at 234. On-site solar arrays for businesses, we have 23. And those two, I actually believe were on city facilities. At least we had, I believe, at least two that went into service in 25. So that includes institutional and public facilities too. Electric vehicles, I thought it would be interesting to collect public charging stations and the number of ports. That's something that we already report on for Green Step Cities too. So in 2024, we had 30 public charging stations within the city and a total of 45 ports. So that could be like one charger with 2 ports available. That's how Green Step Cities actually reports that information. And then registered electric vehicles, there's just over 1,500 electric vehicles in 2024 that were registered within Minnetonka. So home efficiency, so related to the home energy squad visits, this year we had significantly more because of our grant to provide free visits. The reporting for that's a little tricky because that grant actually ran through October of 2024 through June of 2025. So it actually theoretically increased both years, but we had over 250 more visits in 25 than on average in 2024. And then in terms of the income qualified visits, that was also something of interest, that we had about 50 more than usual between those 2 years. But again, the timing of that, I just realized that should say June of 2025, not 26. But yeah, so that's the impact of those visits. And then in terms of CAP outreach, I shared this at the November meeting, but I wanted to share it again. The Sustainability Commission assisted with this. We reached out to 2,550 residents through CAP outreach. Businesses, we connected directly with 25 businesses. Initiatives, we had 17 initiatives, and then the commission volunteered 98.5 hours outside of commission meetings. So it's actually not even including your commission meetings now that I think about it. But I appreciate your support. I hope you can see the impacts of this. I intended on actually providing waste data as well. I just haven't received that yet. So in July, I'll share how many people are collecting organics, who have recycling subscription, and then how many pounds of recycled and reusable material we've collected at our community drop-off. So stay tuned for that. As I'm continuing to talk, one other question I'll ask is if you have any questions on other data that you want to maybe be seeing or think that could help. So that's not something you have to have an answer to today, but as you're thinking about it, let me know if you have any other ideas. I'll continue to think about it as well. So next steps, I will continue to implement the Q1 work plan items we discussed, and then the commission will continue to work on the 2026 work plan, which supports this. Yep.
Ms. Southern, I think Commissioner Henry has a question or comment.
Could you go back one slide?
Sure.
Just to clarify, on this slide, it shows that there are discrete yearly data for this, but then the previous slide, it was cumulative data. Is that correct?
For which one?
Yep, this first slide looks like it's adding from that which was existing in 2024 to the 2025. So for example, we didn't have 23 new businesses put on-site solar arrays on in 2025.
Oh,
Is that
sorry.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then in the next slide, those are discrete yearly numbers, people who
Correct. Yeah.
did the home audit plan. Or
And the reason for that is that if you participate in renewable energy subscriptions 1 year, you are likely going to be, well, in this case, you're still, that's a little tricky because you could drop off or not, but that just the way that they report is a collective amount. So you can't really say it was one more or one less because it could be somebody else dropping off. And then for home energy squad visits, it's you complete it and you're done. Mm-hmm. So you're not doing it again the next year.
Well, that makes sense because it's durable goods if you have a solar array on your roof. So
correct.
they
Yeah,
should
so
stay
you're
there.
continuing to participate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same thing with the subscriptions. It's a monthly subscription. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't have units on here, but that would be helpful. And it's really hard with this data because there's so much context that comes with it. And that's actually why I struggle a bit with being very supportive of green subsidies, because some of the numbers, when you throw it out there without any context, you just don't have the background. So I think we have to be very careful when we report this stuff because it can be taken out of context, like you've said. So
I'm glad we have the human element in the reporting.
Thank you, Commissioner Henry. I have a question, Ms. Sutherland. With regard to 2026 and home energy squad visits, is there going to be any grant money that will help sustain this endeavor in 2026?
great question. So currently the plan is we're continuing to fund the program at 50% like we've done for at least 5 or 6 years now. So that reverted back as soon as that June of 2025 grant was spent. I have applied for at least one grant currently. There's other grants open, and anytime I apply, I'm essentially asking for funding to support that. So if we are successful in any of those grant opportunities, it would go towards funding these at 100% because we've seen clearly there is benefit. When we provide these for free, more people participate. So it's to be determined at this point, but in 2026 we have budgeted funds that are distinctly dedicated to this to continue at that 50% rate, which I will say is unique. Not every city does that, so that does definitely help support, but more funding the better, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Meyer.
Sutherland. You asked as far as additional data.
Yeah.
And I think it would be helpful looking at the capital improvement within Minnetonka. Minnetonka has been proactive in replacing vehicles with electric vehicles, I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah.
But when we look at the heating, air conditioning, water heaters, and the electrification that we're encouraging residents and businesses to do, I would be interested to see what the likely trajectory would be for replacement.
Yeah, great question.
I know the goal is by 2040,
Yes, great question. Could you specify, are you talking about municipal or?
municipal.
Okay, municipal. Yes, actually, for actually both municipal and community, we've had discussions about this. One, I've actually applied for another grant that would help support some of that work internally. We are actually in the process of hiring a facilities manager that would be working with this sort
Great.
of, just in general, facilities management. And my hope is to continue working with that person, going through it. One of the new actions that is slated for Q3 of this year is to look at those electrification goals, the 2040, as you mentioned. It's all very related, though. I mean, it even talks about just like energy efficiency, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So once that person's onboarded, I hope to work with them. We would go through a process of identifying like what are our current assets, what can we update. I still have to learn the processes that facilities is already using, so it's going to be a lot of learning and then coming up with creative solutions together. And hopefully we have grant money to support it.
Yes.
Just briefly, on the other side of it, the public side, which, as we know, the city facilities are only 2% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions. So we also want to be encouraging that within the residential sector and business sector. We've talked about if there's a way of improving our permit process to identify when someone is updating their furnace or whatever appliance, if there's a way of the contractor, it wouldn't be the resident, it'd be the contractor, selecting if they're going to electric, if they were previously gas. We don't really know that right now, but that's something that's on the to-do list. So that could help with some reporting.
Ms. Sutherland, I have another question. When you hire, or when an individual hires a contractor to, say, put in a new furnace, people and the contractor decide on what percentage efficiency they want their furnace to be, 97% or 96 or 93. I'm not sure what the range is now, but that's decided before the new furnace is installed. Is that information ever conveyed to the city? Like, well, we have 16 new high efficiency furnaces, but rather than saying they're high efficiency, specify the percentage, because obviously the higher the efficiency, the less amount of emissions and the less natural gas is consumed. And I have another question.
I just have a question about furnaces. Why would someone purchase a less efficient furnace? Is it less expensive, or?
It has been in the past. I couldn't tell you today because I haven't ever purchased a less efficient furnace. But generally speaking, in the past, the higher the efficiency, the greater the capital cost, the greater the cost was to the homeowner. But if you could incur the additional cost today, your monthly utility bills should be lower. And there would be a point where it would make economic sense to do that, besides an environmental sense.
So a more efficient furnace is not less expensive?
No, it's more. It has in the past. It's been more expensive. If you wanted to purchase a 97% efficient furnace, the cost would be greater than, say, a 91 or 92%.
Because of the
efficient.
technology?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
but I don't know if that's current as of today, but it was in the past because I've replaced a couple in the past.
So, Chair Golub, I'm going to answer this question because one of my other duties as assigned as the city planner is I work with permitting and how we gather that information and send out approved permits. And so, as Ally said, we're looking at ways to how we can collect under the state building code and what they allow us to collect and what they don't allow us to collect. How we can collect additional information so we at least can report on that. Right now, we don't know if someone's replacing with a gas furnace or with an electric furnace. So we want to start with very basic, can we collect that information? And then can we collect the type of furnace and that more detailed information? There is a certain limit to what the city can request on building permit applications.
Could residents, if you replaced a furnace, and let's say you replaced it with a 97% efficiency rating, could people voluntarily convey that information, or is that not possible?
Yeah, Chair and commissioners, people could, when it comes to furnaces, an individual is not allowed to pull their own new furnace permit.
Right, there would be the
and so
contractor,
it would be a
but-
contractor doing that. And these are really good questions, and maybe it would be useful, Ms. Sutherland, if we could, maybe at a future meeting, have one of our building officials come and talk to you about how they review things, what they can review, what they are not allowed to push, so to speak, in terms of practices under the state building code, because I do think that that would be really informative to your work. Unfortunately, neither Ally or I are experts in the specifics.
Yeah, I understand that. And I do know that the contractor has to pull the permit. I can share with you that we did have a furnace reached its life expectancy. It was emitting not dangerous levels of CO, but they were too high for my environmental health background perspective, and we had the furnace replaced. And we did replace it with a 97% efficiency. And I think the old one that was 20 years ago, I think it was maybe 92 or 93%. And so I'm aware of those numbers personally. And if there was some way to share that with the city and it wasn't too intrusive, I would be happy to do so personally.
Chair, you saying that just reminded me, I believe we might be able to request that information actually from the utility if you were to have received a rebate.
We
So-
will, yeah, from
yeah.
I think it was from CenterPoint Energy.
Yeah, so that is something I actually have noted for myself to look into, because the utility already provides, the utilities both, well, CenterPoint doesn't necessarily on as frequent a basis as Xcel Energy through the Partners in Energy program. They provide us data on participation in energy efficiency programs. Rebates, I don't think are identified in that, but that's a way of actually identifying, how many people received rebates for efficient furnaces or what have you. So
Okay.
I'll look into that, and thank you for all the ideas. If you
Thank you.
if you have any, keep a note on it and share it with me. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Henry?
Thanks, Chair. Ellie, I have a couple other ideas
Yeah.
too. I heard Susan mention about electric furnaces versus gas, and I'd love to have data, quantifiable data about who is choosing to switch to a ground source or other heat pump because they eliminate the fossil fuels from the equation. So I just put a plug in. If we could record that data and show it year to year, I'd like to see that one.
yeah.
Also, the city has EV charging stations, and in your slide, you showed the number of charging stations in the city. Can the city figure out what the usage data is for each of those charging stations? And if so, that would be great to report on to show that a lot of people are using it, and then that would show that there's a demand for putting more charging stations in.
You're talking about the municipal chargers that we've installed, or in general?
Generally, but I'm assuming that since the city put in, let's say, the two out here in the parking
Yeah.
lot, you would have access absolutely to that data.
Correct, yeah. So the city owns 6 charging stations, actually. There's 2 at City Hall, 2 at the community center, and 2 at Williston. We do have data on those. I would have to double check I'm assuming it's all public data. I would have to check with our finance department on that. But we do have information on that, and I could certainly share that with the commission. It's also something we could report in here, so great idea there. We would not have data for the other, the usage of all other, non-public chargers. But the location of those is on plugshare.com. If you're not familiar with that, it's a GIS map of sorts, interactive, and they have an application. So if you drive an electric vehicle, you can find the charger itself on there. They share the kilowatt hours, but they don't share usage data. But I'll note that for future meetings.
Could we work backwards and figure out from the kilowatt hours dispensed what the usage data would be?
From the private ones?
Yes, not from in the homes, but
I see what you're saying.
semi-public
So
ones.
the kilowatt, in this case, actually, it's just the power. It's how much power it provides. So it ends up translating into like the speed in which it charges. So it's not a comprehensive amount. It's just per charge.
Not how many kilowatt hours have been.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
And there's no way to get that data. It'd be great.
We would have to personally ask them, which we could ask. Whether they want to respond is another story. We also don't necessarily know who the owner of the charger is, because sometimes it's maybe the property owner, not the business it's out in front of, and it would probably be more work than it's worth, honestly. But I know our chargers are actually quite highly utilized, so I think we would get good data from that as is.
It'd probably be enough to share the data from Minnetonka's chargers.
I think
if there's
so.
6,
I think so too.
that'd tell a good story. And then my last question on this one too. Commissioner Patain, she spoke glowingly of the Ridwell program and how you can use it to recycle or otherwise get rid of from your place a lot of things that the compost and recycling companies wouldn't pick up. Do we have, and could we have that as public data, or at least to report on this one, how many people in the city have chosen to subscribe to Ridwell? I think that would tell a good story as well.
We would have to request that from Ridwell, and they would have to be willing to share it. It's probably, I would maybe say, proprietary for them. I don't know if they'd want to share that number or not. That was my thought, but...
Yeah, Chair and Commissioner Henry, I would agree with that. It's a request that we can make of Ridwell, and they may be willing to give us just a total number.
Yeah.
They certainly, we can request it. I actually have Ridwell myself. I would not want my location or my information shared with the group.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The most I would like to see would be the total number of people in the city that participate in Ridwell.
I could imagine they would happily share that.
Ashley?
Okay, so I wanted to follow up really quickly. Thank you, Chair. Number one, I'm going to start backwards just since on the Ridwell thing. Yes, excuse me, Commissioner Henry, love me some Ridwell. It's fantastic. I do think it would be nice to get that information, and I agree. Ms. Sutherland, at a high level, I would not imagine they would have issues sharing what their numbers are of like just people in the city who use it. Something that I would be interested in, and I haven't gone back and looked at this, is I remember when I went and first purchased it, which is now probably a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I'm not quite sure, is they hadn't expanded, like we were like at the cusp of where they had expanded their service to, and so I don't know if it covered all of Minnetonka. So I'd be curious how far out, if it does cover all of Minnetonka now, just so that would be something to look into, which I think that probably could be easily seen just by checking online, so that's something even one of us could look into. So that would be something that I'd be curious to see, just to make sure that we all Minnetonka residents do have access to it, number one, especially if we're looking into how many Minnetonka residents are utilizing the service. And then additionally, with the charging station, so I don't think you were at the last meeting, Commissioner Henry. I just recently got an electric vehicle. Public charging is not for the weak. It is not for the faint of heart. I will tell you right now, I had many grievances that I aired regarding my public charging as I was waiting. I also am a proud dweller of a condo, which is also an HOA, and so I got to share the experience of trying to obtain a charging station within the HOA, and so that was a very unique experience that I got to share with the commission, and how we can better advocate for homeowners who have HOAs and how you can get a charging station in your home and EV readiness and yada, yada, yada. But anyways, so something that I will say is I was not able to utilize the charging stations for the city charging stations, which I was disappointed in. I was able to use like the slow chargers, but not the fast chargers, which ain't nobody got time for a slow charger. I'm just gonna be honest. Ain't nobody got, like, if I was, like, I used it for when I came for our meeting that one time, which was nice because we're going to be here for a couple of hours. But a slow, so just, do you have an EV?
I don't.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick little, because if you don't have one, you don't know. A slow charge will take my car 9 hours if I was at, like, on E, okay? A fast charge takes my car an hour. So ideally, when you're public charging, ideally it'd be ideal that you'd use a fast charger. But like if I was at work, then I'd want a level 2 charger. Like I'd go to work, you're at work for 8 hours a day, so it's perfect. Additionally, something that is also interesting to see. So in addition to the how many people are utilizing them, something else that's interesting to see is the ratings that people have to say. Because I will say that some of the ratings for these public chargers, like the ones that there were not nice comments. I'll tell y'all that right now. So that's something else that we might want to look into. So just things, food for thought about how we can make public charging as accessible as possible. All seriousness aside, if I had to public charge, I would take the car back to the dealership and be like, give me a hybrid. It's not for the faint of heart. If it's I did get the charger finally with the HOA. We worked it out. We came together, and they approved it. But I would not. I immediately texted Commissioner. Damn, why can't I remember your last name? Thank you, to Commissioner Meyer. And I was like, I think I sent her a screenshot of the approval from the HOA board. I was like, finally. And I had the electrician out the next day. I was like, get to my house right now. Like,
Esther, what was the reason why you couldn't use fast chargers?
so I could use the fast chargers. The ones here, it doesn't have, so the connection, so I have, the car that I have is the same kind as like a Tesla. Like it's not a Tesla, but it has the same connection. But what they have here for their fast charger, the connector that I have, it doesn't connect to, I'd have to buy a different connector. And so, so I have to go to the Target and Ridge. So anywhere that has a Tesla supercharger, I can go there, but that's not what they have out here. And so their level 2 charger, I can use my connector to connect to that, and that'll connect to my car, but not the level 3 charger. So, or the fast charger, basically.
So the connectors aren't, you couldn't use one connector with the other one? Why are they not
So if you go out to ours, they actually have 2 different kind, which is really nice because, so that means 2 different styles of car. It's a whole world. Like once you dive into EVs, it's not it. I want to encourage people to get EVs, but I think I wasn't even fully prepared, even with the research that I had done. You guys, I went to the EV. Wasn't the 3 of us? We went to the EV seminar that they had.
Yeah.
Still was not prepared when I got the EV car, and I got a very standard, like the Tesla charging, like that's a very standard, because it's been around forever. So if you have a Tesla style connector, that's a very standard model. But anyways, I say all that to say, it's there, like what we have out here, it connects to 2 different styles, and I don't know, I don't know what style they are, or what car style it is. Miss Sutherland, do you know, I feel like we talked about this. Is it a Honda? What car is it?
So in terms of what it connects to?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering why you can't, because the cars that I have, I've always been able to connect to these. So it's really interesting to hear that you're having,
because I was like,
I remember
what is
this last time too. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's certain ports, and typically I thought that there was adapters that you could
There are adapters.
very easily buy, but it sounds like it's maybe not as easy as I always imagined. So, but I took a note because I really do think that that's a critical issue if people still can't access
And then
public charging with an EV charger.
And
or
then my last
vehicle.
thing I will say is some of the comments that I saw about the ones out front where people are like, the fees were astronomical. I'm going to tell you right now, in general, I have not found EV charging it can be pricey. You can offset pricing by charging at what am I trying to say? Like
Off-peak hours?
Thank you. Non-peak hours, like off-peak hours in general. But there is definitely a need for it because I have had to wait before at Ridgedale sometimes. Not frequently, but I've had to wait to charge my car. If I go, like, depending upon what day of the week it is, I've had to wait. So there is a need for it for sure within the city of Minnetonka for more chargers, I believe, especially fast chargers.
If I can interject from what you're talking about too, it's a different story, different cultural thing, but whenever I go over to Belgium and the Netherlands, I go there a couple times a year to deliver some training, and at every highway rest stop, every exit on the highway, there's a gas station, and at every gas station, there's a separate EV charging station. They have solar panels up on the roof of this to augment some of that, but it's beautiful, and it's so convenient, and it really speeds the adoption of EVs, and I would love to see something similar to that catch on across the U.S. Minnesota, Minnetonka specifically, I know we don't really have any interstate rest stops in Minnetonka, but if we could do it somewhere to integrate it with other gas stations to make it easier, and then at least people can go in and get a bite to eat or something else. Right now, if you're in a parking lot and somebody's there, and I can see why people rate them low, because they're not that convenient. We have hybrid vehicles, and yeah, we haven't gone EV maybe for that one, but I don't know. But I would like to see more people adopt EVs and make it easier for them to do so.
Commissioner Henry, I just have one follow-up. When you're saying they're at the gas stations, do you think it's the business owner that is installing them? Like they're owned by that same company?
At every rest stop and every exit on
Yeah.
these highways over in Europe, there are different companies that own the gas stations.
Right, yeah.
And it looked like it was sponsored by the country, so it was state sponsored.
Oh, okay. So it's okay.
The logo
Right. So
wasn't,
separate but near each other.
Yeah, it wasn't a Lukoil or a Shell or
Yeah,
a BP. or
okay,
anything.
okay.
It was a Charge Netherlands or something like that, but it was right next to the gas
Oh, okay.
station.
Okay.
So I think these rest stops are public areas, and then they leased out to these private gas stations, but then they also thought it would be beneficial to have a EV recharging station at that same spot.
I also wanted to follow up. Minnetonka's proactive to have the chargers in the first place, and I know the first year they were free, which was awesome, or 18 months or so. But it brings up a good point that we could consider having some signage about vehicles that are adaptable to it, to the fast charger. The other information, I find that the charging for is quite easy once you find a system that works. Charge point, and you've got the account, it can be very easy, or the Tesla chargers. But the cost is generally about twice what you can, what the cost would be at home. And overall, if you compare the mileage on an electric vehicle and the cost for the electricity, that is half of what gasoline equivalent would be. So over the years, so save at home, save by having electric vehicle. But if we could model Europe, I would agree.
Thank you, commissioners. Just a few.
Sorry, last thing. Also, if there may be signage or a QR code. It was cold outside and dark, so just want to add that disclaimer also, so it might be user issues.
Ms. Sutherland, going back to one of your questions prior to this discussion, was there any additional data that we would like you to think about getting if it's not too onerous? I'm putting on my old solid waste management, environmental planning and engineering hat. When we talk about recycling programs, I'm not sure if the city is able to readily get the information in terms of what used to be called the citizen participation rate. You know, what percentage of people are sitting out there recyclable, the traditional recyclables. That was very, very important many, many years ago. I think it still is. It should be not onerous at all from the perspective of any collector to obtain that information. I mean, I think I could generalize and say virtually everyone in my neighborhood is setting out their recyclables now after many, many years of public education. It would also, I think, be interesting, and this information should be readily available, to find out what quantity of recyclable materials are being collected from within the city of Minnetonka, at least from the residential dwellings. In that same manner, it would be interesting and useful for us to know what the citizen participation rate is for the collection of organics. You know, I mean, I think now we know it's maybe 25%, but I think having that routinely collected and updated would be beneficial. We would know, well, in 2025 it was X, 2026 it was up, and it's not, I'm hoping that the trend will always be up, but we could have some blips where it goes down. I also think it would be useful, and again, not onerous, to know what quantity of organics is being collected. In the past, people used to talk about what is the landfill diversion rate, you know, what's the quantity from this geographic area that's being diverted from being pounded into a sanitary landfill. And I would think that information, from your perspective, should be readily available from the companies that are collecting that information. And if they want to know why, we want to look at the trends. We want to assure ourselves that it is increasing and not going down or oscillating. And one way to do that is with the citizen participation rate. But if you want to look at the landfill diversion rate, you need to look at quantities. Haulers always like to talk about volume. Well, environmental engineers and planners like to talk about quantities, because you can't play games with the quantities, but you can play games with volume. And you can play games with citizen participation rates, because someone may not set out very much. So those are just some of my thoughts.
If I may, Ms. Sutherland and Chair and Commission, all of these are good data points, and as someone who's kind of new to this whole sustainability world, really interesting, and I think would be good information. I just want to manage some expectations here that we're talking about a lot of stuff, and what we were hoping to get from you, what I think we did, was data for the work that we're going to do in Q1. And so we've taken all of these notes, and as we get into the work that is specific to the things that all of you have talked about, we'll try to get that data for you. I just want to manage expectations.
I understand. Some food for thought for future data collection. Thank you.
I appreciate that too. And as I'm hearing the list, like Ms. Thomas said, you know, we're not going to have this information this month or next month, but it's something that we can work over the next year to figure out, can we collect it? How can we collect it? What's useful? What's not? I think in some ways we want to focus on data that we can actually impact. So like Ridwell, for example, while the information is helpful, it's a private business, and we actually, my understanding is like we can't just go out and promote Ridwell. So we don't necessarily as a city affect that data point. So I think we just have to think through all of these, but they're all really, really great ideas, and I really appreciate it, because I was sitting there going, oh, what should we collect? And this is an amazing list. I did want to mention, in terms of the EV charging and trying to foster more people installing these, and when I say people, I mean businesses, I presented to the Minnetonka Business Council in September. We had 19 businesses that were present, and while we got through a bunch of information, I also wanted to do a plug for EV charging. And at the time I used, I shared a map of the PlugShare interactive GIS map, and I showcased how there is an extreme lack of charging anywhere west on Highway 7 past Minnetonka, and really like there's just this whole gap along that way, and you think of how many people are commuting along that, and how they're, if you're located as a business owner along that corridor, that could be a really great opportunity for you. At the time, I also wanted to supplement that information with, I think, I don't know for certain, that think Minnetonka has a higher than average percent of EVs within the community than possibly other communities. I need to request additional data, which is the number of registered vehicles within the city, in order to be able to do that calculation. But my hope is that we can kind of maybe form this case study or argument of why should you install electric vehicles as a business owner. We've come up with some other ideas tonight, but I just wanted to plug that as something that maybe we can continue to have a conversation on, because I do think we need to educate and inform and just make people aware of, and maybe it's something we could actually add on to the outreach we're doing for the business blitz later. Maybe it's another pamphlet we slide in, like, hey, have you considered? Let's see, was there any other questions I had? I think the
Can I
only-
add on to that
oh,
really quickly?
Yeah,
just since
absolutely.
You're talking about it. No, I love that that's something that you added to people, especially when you're bringing information that tells them, hey, this is where the gap is.
Mm-hmm.
This is also something that can bring, hopefully, business to you as well.
Right.
Because, when I am charging, at the time I was going into Target because, you have an hour of time to kill usually at
Mm-hmm.
that point in time. So I love that you're doing that. I would hope in the pamphlet, hopefully it tells them like what the upfront costs are associated with it. I
Sure.
would think it can't be that much, just understanding as someone who's installed one at home, so I think that's
Yeah.
a great way to, a great thing to add on to if we're already talking to businesses anyway, so I
Yeah,
like that.
and well, we're also talking about how do we incorporate it into the development process too, because it's so much more affordable to do it during that construction phase. So lots to talk about there. Okay,
If I could
well, oh,
add
sorry,
to that real
yes,
quick.
yeah.
Do you know if that would be profitable for businesses, or is that an expense that they have to consider for sustainability, a
Yeah,
sacrifice?
great question. And thank you, Commissioner Patain, for also bringing that up. I forgot that, when I was talking to them, I wasn't just like, fill this gap for us as a common good. I mean, it is to bring in businesses. What I've found by talking to other communities, it sounds like in some cases that might be the property owner of a strip mall, so it might not necessarily be the business owner themselves, but the property management company might be getting some profit there. So it all depends on how much they're charging as a fee, how much it costs to install it. The farther it is from your existing utilities, it can get really expensive. There's actually private, third-party companies that will approach you as a business and say, hey, can we install a charger on your property? And the only group profiting is the third party. So there are businesses that's their whole business. So yes, I think it can be profitable. It doesn't always have to be.
And is that something we can include in the
Yeah.
pamphlet?
Yes, I think, and we have to be realistic about costs and stuff, but yeah, that would definitely be part of the conversation. Trying to bring business into your local business too.
Yeah.
Well, great conversation. I didn't actually explicitly say this, but I think we covered it. I was just wondering if you had any questions about the whole, Q1 work plan that was shared and the data shared, but I think I probably heard all of those questions and comments. So if you're okay, I'm going to move on to the next item yep. Oh, your chair, or your mic, chair.
Yep, thank you. With that, since I think we've asked you quite a few questions on item 5A, since no one's registered a comment, I will open and immediately close the public input portion for this agenda topic. Please continue on with item 5B. Thank you.
My mic this time. Okay, let me pull up my PowerPoint again over here. All right, so this is item 5B. It's a discussion on the 2026 Sustainability Work Plan schedule. So the recommendation here is to provide any feedback or questions on the draft work plan schedule that's presented. We'll do a quick recap on item 14 of the 2026 work plan. We'll review what that schedule looks like, the draft schedule, and then I'll just collect any questions or feedback the commission has. So this says 1, but I meant 14. Item 14 of the plan that the commission recommended was to create this implementation schedule and to discuss it at this meeting. So essentially what I did is I took the draft work plan and I put it into a calendar. And this is the draft here. So again, drafted, so I'm here to collect your thoughts, feedback. But the way that I put this together was through a few different considerations. So first, I wanted to incorporate all agenda items and ambassador activities planned for 2026. And it's definitely certain that more agenda items will come up. These are just the ones that we know of now. I also wanted to note, there's always ongoing items as assigned, that sort of thing that can come up, and those are noted at the very bottom of this. I wanted to equally distribute the work plan items per month and per quarter, so that's why it's sectioned out in 4 quarters. I also took into account predetermined event dates, so we can't switch when Summerfest is held or open house, so those are obviously as assigned. I did include pre, post, and day of event needs. So while we obviously know that the day of the event has a time need, this accounts for pre-event planning that the commission could and has signed up to help out with per the plan, and also some post-outreach work as well. So that's incorporated in here. And then I also took into account seasonal impacts of outreach. Anything over the holidays is really difficult to get people to engage with, at least in my experience. I think summer can also be very tricky as people go up to cabins and they're just busy having fun in the summer. So it's not always a great time to connect. So I took those items into account. So I'm just going to briefly go through this. So I'll go through each month. So January, we have obviously tonight's agenda items, and then ambassador duties. So tonight, the next item will be a discussion on the subcommittees. I'll be sending the subcommittee coordination is just basically like the initial emails that I'll connect everyone with, and we'll set some meeting times up. If you sign up for the tour committee, which is one of the 3 committees we'll talk about in the next item, I'm hoping that committee can actually meet still yet this month to discuss the tour that I have tentatively scheduled for February. So if you want to sign up for the tour committee, just be aware that might be meeting in the next couple weeks. February, we do not have a commission meeting, but the ambassador opportunities are to help to promote the Sustainable Minnetonka Awards, and also potentially have a tour scheduled. So that's all tentative to see if we can find somewhere that it's pretty easy to schedule and get into. But a tour is on the agenda. And I also meant to note that anytime you see number 1 or number 15 on here, that's referencing the the work plan item that it's related to. For March, we have the commission meeting, and that's when we're going to review the Sustainable Minnetonka Award applications that we receive. And ambassador duties for that would be the Switch Together event. So Hennepin County is hosting another solar group buy program, and they're having an event at Ridgedale Library actually that night. So I thought that the commission could help participate in that. The Everything Electric and Reuse Swap event committees will meet separately sometime in March for event planning purposes. And then Community Connections Outreach, which is something that's a part of the work plan, can happen that month too, and that would just be trying to reach out to groups in our community that might want to help promote the reuse swap happening around Earth Day. So I'm thinking like ICA Food Shelf or local places of worship. I think that's an opportunity for us to kind of do a bit more outreach there. April, we do not have a commission meeting, but we have some ambassador opportunities, which would be on the 20th of that month is when the city council will likely award the Sustainable Minnetonka Awards if it's same process as last year. Ridgedale Library will host their Earth Day event again, and then we also have the Earth Day clothing swap. In May, we're going to have a discussion on greenhouse gas and environmental impacts of drive-thrus, so that's to be determined, but that's something that the City Council has actually asked the Commission to look into, so stay tuned for that. I'm just realizing that date is wrong, but that should say the 5/19. Ambassador activities, so we have the Everything Electric Subcommittee meeting again that month, and interviewing sustainability champions. So as part of the work plan, the Commission wanted to build a better base of case studies and examples of what residents and businesses are doing. And that would be the month where we could potentially be doing phone calls or meeting with people one-on-one and just collecting like short stories. June, again, no meeting, but we have ambassador opportunities, which are the Everything Electric event at Summerfest, and then farmers markets start up in June. In July, that's when we have the next CAP implementation update like we're doing tonight. Ambassador activities are preparing for a business blitz that will be happening in August, but I'm imagining this is us doing some phone calls, initial outreach. The ideal scenario that we're going to try to follow this year is calling businesses and kind of getting like they're okay for us to come out. That's the ideal scenario. I don't think everywhere we stop will maybe schedule, but we'll do some pre-outreach work together. There's another farmers market that month. August, again, no commission meeting, but we're going to plan to schedule 2 business blitzes. These will be defined to certain geographic areas where we're going to maybe 10 to 20 per day. So 2 different days for that will be scheduled, and then another farmers market. September, we do have a commission meeting. Apparently there are no items that, but there will be some things, but I guess I didn't come up with anything for that. And Business Blitz post outreach, which I was talking to CEE, and they actually highly suggest that we do follow-up phone calls as a way to say, hey, we were at your business on this date. We wanted to check in to see if we can get you signed up for X, Y, and Z. And they find that is actually probably even potentially more successful. So they can help with these 3 activities in July, August, and September, but the commission is welcome to help out as well. And then I also have that flagged for all subcommittees meeting in October. No commission meeting, but we have the ambassador activities of another Everything Electric exhibit, and that will be at the open house. And another opportunity to do more community connection outreach, and that would be to connect people with the swap that's planned for November. So again, that's just tentative, but I'm looking at the schedule and trying to figure out when we want to host another swap. In my last job, I hosted, it was actually a winter clothing swap in November, and it was very successful around the holidays. Don't know if we want to necessarily do a winter clothing swap, but I think a lot of people are looking for things around the holidays, so I do think it's a good time to consider that. For that meeting in November, a work plan report would be then created for the commission and the council. And then December, just the farmers market, to just try to keep it a little bit lighter. But again, all tentative. I'll go to the next slide. Just asking if the commission has any questions or feedback on this. This is something that I'll probably pull up at each meeting, so it's something that you can make comments on. I mean, it's kind of just a starting point, and it's meant to keep us on track. It was an interesting exercise to take a work plan and put it into a calendar and say, wow, we have a lot of stuff that we're doing. So, yeah, I think it was a good exercise. But any thoughts? Nope.
Go ahead, Ann.
Impressive organization. I like the subgroups, the subcommittees, and we'll talk about that subsequently. One comment about for those who participated in the one-stop efficiency shop, meeting with businesses, July and August, sometimes there are even business owners take vacations. And I'm wondering if moving that 1 month from August to September after Labor Day, if that might be a better time to be able to reach the business owners instead of someone else covering.
No, I really appreciate the feedback. Was that past experience that you had with the city? Is that?
We did the one-stop efficiency shop, I
Yeah.
think. Did you join us, Ashley? And
We did.
Brian,
We
you were
did.
there?
We did.
Yeah, so we went out to reach out to different restaurants.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was an all-day.
Okay. It was
And there
sometime in the
were
summer.
about five different teams of commissioners, staff, along with Center for Energy and Environment. So pretty extensive
Okay.
outreach
No,
to 5 different quadrants of the city.
Okay, I didn't know if you had those same issues at that time. Thank you for the feedback, and I'll definitely take that into account. I talked with CEE and I asked them, I can't remember how I posed it, but I asked them if this was a good time and they said yes, but maybe they were just not thinking very critically, and I do want to think critically in this situation because I want to make sure we're using our time, efficiently. So thank you for that. I actually have a meeting planned with them, I believe, next week or maybe the 1st of February to start talking through this. So I will bring that up and actually, I'll ask them like, what is the best time? I think we also have to work within our, our openings, but maybe, I think September is a little tricky because that's kind of like back to school month, but maybe businesses aren't affected by it. I'll look into it, but thank you. Appreciate that feedback. Any other thoughts?
Commissioner Henry?
Just tactical question, you'll probably address this later, but since you mentioned subcommittees on the agenda
Yeah.
here, there's 9 official people in the Sustainability Commission. How many people do you envision being on each of the subcommittees?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We'll talk about that in the next item, but what actually the work plan says two members and then plus myself. So it can be up to 3, I believe, based on our majorities, but
Okay.
yeah.
Michael?
Are we gonna touch more on the subcommittees later?
Yes.
Okay.
Next item.
Any other questions for Ally for item 5B? If not, and I think the answer is no, I will open and immediately close the public input portion for this agenda topic. You asked for feedback. We provided you with feedback. There's no vote needed. So we will move on to item 5C. Thank you, Ally.
Sounds great. All right. The long-awaited discussion on subcommittees. Let's see here. Okay, so again, this is just requesting your feedback on who will serve on each committee. So it'd be very helpful if tonight the commission can decide who would like to be on which committee. So that's, I guess, the goal here. Overview is that I'll describe what I'm envisioning the subcommittees will, kind of like the process that they'll follow, like what is a subcommittee. These are brand new to both myself and the commission. So discussion on that. Work plan, just review of where this was called out and past conversations we had on the matter, and then just requesting your questions and feedback. So the purpose of the subcommittees, let me pull up my notes here. We had a pretty lengthy discussion on this. So we talked about this at the September and November Sustainability Commission meetings. It was a question in the Mentee, and I asked, is this something that the commission is supportive of? The commission was very supportive of it. So the purpose of it is to just essentially provide more activities outside of meetings for commissioners. While some commissioners might prefer the meeting format, others contact me quite frequently saying, I want to do more, I want to be more involved and actually, be in the thick of the work. So if that's what you want to be involved with, this opportunity is for you. It also helps us accelerate more engagement opportunities. So, it's just me in the sustainability division, if you will. So the more help that the commission provides with hosting these, the more activities we can host. So that's why I was okay with including the 2 reuse swap events, for example, in this, because the commission also committed to creating a subcommittee to support that. So your work helps support more engagement. And then overall, it's just to help plan events. So that's really the main purpose, at least how they're added currently. The process will be that commissioners will self-select the subcommittee. We'll have about 2 commissioners per subcommittee. If someone else really wants to join, we could have 3. And then I will also sit on that subcommittee too. And then I'm envisioning that the meeting schedule will be, I prepare a draft agenda. Perhaps I send that out and ask for any additions to the draft agenda. We'll have 2 to 3 meetings outside of regular Sustainability Commission meetings, and that's going to vary by topic, as you'll see. And I'm envisioning about an hour and a half for each. I think 2 hours will get a bit long with people that have other commitments and day jobs and that sort of thing. An hour might be a bit too short to get enough work done. So hour and a half is what I'm aiming for. Commissioners will select the time. So ideally, the day of that we would meet would be Monday through Friday. I would be okay meeting after 4:30 after City Hall. I'm imagining that time will probably work best for commissioners. So know that is an option. And ideally, meeting in person would be best. I know Commissioner Carr, who is not present right now, is interested in being on, I'll just let you know, the tour committee, and he's not here. He's actually in Florida right now, staying down there for a bit. So I told him, if he wants to participate virtually, that's fine. So just know that there's 2 options, but in person is the most ideal. So the first subcommittee would be, yep.
I was just wondering, just because I will be going to college in the fall, is this like an entire year commitment? How long of a commitment is this? Like, would I be able to do this even though I'm leaving?
Yeah, great question. In a few slides, I actually show the schedule on which months the committee would be meeting, so we could assign you maybe according to that. Yeah, great thoughts.
Ellie,
Yep.
Are these subcommittee meetings considered city meetings? So they'll be recorded and they'll be beholden to the same laws and restrictions that the commission meetings are held to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so no, they're not considered regular open public meetings because we're meeting with less than a quorum, was my understanding. Is that what you're understanding?
Yeah, Chair, we would consider this just an ad hoc meeting of a subset of this group without a quorum, which is why we're saying 3 or fewer.
Okay.
If there was ever a time in which we decided that it was necessary to have more than the quorum, then we would post it as an open meeting and we would host it in there. To be honest, at that point, I would just say, let's just add it as an agenda item. So,
Thank you.
So I'll describe each subcommittee. So there's 3 that we're proposing. Again, they are actually already included in the recommended work plan that the commission created. But the first is the Everything Electric exhibit. One of the targets was that 2 commissioners would sit on this event planning committee. This is to host the 2 Everything Electric exhibits. So one is in June at Summerfest, and then the other one is in September. So we would be meeting, prior to those events for planning purposes. The other subcommittee would be for the reuse swap events, and we need 2 committee members for that. And then the third is the education on-site tours. And in the packet, I described this a bit. The work plan actually doesn't state that we're going to create a subcommittee for this, but the more I thought about it, I thought this one would actually probably be a pretty fun subcommittee to join. And I think it helps take that off of my plate, which, some of this stuff can take a really long time. I think also that you as a group might be interested in actually being involved in more, just selective of what you want to tour as commissioners.
So I had a question about that because I was like, I didn't remember tours being a subcommittee.
Yeah.
And so that explains that.
Yeah.
My only question regarding this is the fact that from what I recall, is that we really enjoyed tours as a group. Mm-hmm. And so from your previous slide and your previous explanation of it, understood that your expectation was for there to be 2 committee members, and it sounds like we're already gonna the remainder of us are gonna have to arm wrestle for that other spot since Commissioner Carr wants the spot. And I was like, I don't know how we got around the quorum situation previously because several of us went on the tours previously. Is there something we can do about that?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas just noted. Are you talking about attending or planning?
Attending.
Okay, so
this
these
is
are
just
for
the planning?
planning purposes. Yes. This is
Okay.
just
Okay.
planning the tour.
All attend.
We could all attend, but we just all couldn't plan.
But
I'm still processing that even.
yeah, no, and that's fine. So another option, and that was purely in the staff report.
Which maybe
it was
I don't want to plan. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm thinking out loud.
No,
I
it's okay.
appreciate you guys working with me.
So, okay, couple options here. In the staff report, I included it as the commission could consider creating another subcommittee to plan this. When I say plan, the ideal scenario would be the commissioners maybe decide on where to go and they make the phone call, they make the plan, they're doing the communications, and they secure the spot. I think that's totally within the purview of the Sustainability Commission as ambassadors. It takes a lot of that time off of my plate too, so I can do more of the implementation. So it's kind of a win-win. However, if you all feel like you all want to be more invested in the decision, we could have a discussion item on a regular agenda to say, hey, where do you want to go? Give the subcommittee a set of ideas, or maybe even, say, hey, this is where we want to go, and then that committee does the calling. That could maybe make it a little bit more collective. I would say maybe because just based on the schedule, and you'll see, I think, on this next slide, I pretty strategically put the tours in when there was time for it. So perhaps the February one, we kind of leave it to the subcommittee to make the decision. And then the November one that I have slated, maybe we make that a larger activity where the commission gets involved and makes a decision where to go. But I hope that describes it.
I guess if there's only two as well,
Yeah,
and then it doesn't really, at that point, then never mind, that's fine. I feel like that's how we previously have done it in the past anyway, so that's fine.
Oh, okay.
We all talk about it, and then the options are kind of narrowed down, and then
Okay.
usually, obviously, it was the coordinator, but then, so now it's going to the subcommittee, so thank
Yeah.
you. I feel like that explains it a little bit more.
Yeah. And we're always, able to do more tours, but I look at this list and it looks like a lot. So the work plan said at minimum we would do 2 tours. So if we, find ourselves having more free time, we can certainly add more tours. So this is the schedule. I have highlighted when the subcommittees will meet. It might look confusing because sometimes I say all subcommittees, so that's why you're not seeing as many highlights. But the Everything Electric group would meet in March. Here, I'll circle it. I think you can see my mouse. March, that's representative of the EE, May, and September. And again, that's to plan for the June events and the October events. So the March and May, we would probably discuss both just a bit. May, more details for June, and then in September, we would be planning for the October event. June takes more planning than the October event, I would say, just based on my experience last year. Reuse swaps.
Ms. Sutherland,
Yes.
did you say that the Everything Electric event was getting together in September?
It's on the screen, if that helps for reference. So,
okay.
yep, I have this
was
cheat
looking at
sheet.
the,
No, it's okay. I have a cheat sheet here.
on spot.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yep, so March, May, and September. So then the reuse swap committee would meet in March and September. And the tour would meet this month, the end of the month, at some point in January, and then again in September. So I'll go to the next slide. I still have those dates are written on this slide for your reference. So, before we get into stating which one you would like to join, I'm going to ask a few questions. So the first is, do you have any questions on the proposed process, like how this would work? Anything that's maybe not clear?
One question, a clarifying question. I don't remember when, but we have talked about and listed out different options for touring in the past. And we had call it a laundry list of possibilities where I think we actually ranked them in terms of preference. That might have been prior.
It was, yeah, it would have been
To you
prior to
coming
me
here.
being here, but I
Yeah.
can certainly look in the minutes.
We did that. I know we did, and my commissioners are
Okay.
nodding, those that have been here longer. No, we did do that. So that might save a little bit of time just going back to saying, well, these are the 7, 8, 9 possibilities. Now we just have to narrow it down
Great.
as opposed to starting from scratch
No,
and
I appreciate that.
dreaming them up again.
Great. Any questions on the proposed subcommittee topics? Yeah.
Sorry, not the topics, but I had a
Oh, yeah.
question about the schedule. So the reuse swaps, it looks like it's in March and September. And when did you say that the swap events would take place?
Yeah, sorry, it's a little confusing. The swap events are in April and November. Oh, sorry, no. Yes. So April, and the reason for that is that the April one, we kind of already know. We host this every year, and it's actually, it's a pretty easy event to host. I mean, there just isn't a lot to it. So right before is fine. November, we have no idea what we're collecting for this yet. So that's why it's a little bit more in advance.
Well, it makes sense because Earth Day, so you have the subcommittee meeting before that.
Yeah.
And then this one in the winter is great because people like to exchange warm clothes, and it's a good time to do that. So a couple months before gives the subcommittee enough time to do some planning.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Thanks.
So just to confirm, there is a possibility for virtual attendance?
Yes, so my understanding is for your term of service that your last meeting would be in May. However, I believe your appointment is until the end of June on paper. So as an ambassador, as a sustainability ambassador, you could participate in all the outreach through June. So you could be at the Everything Electric event in June.
Okay, I see.
That being said, you and I talked offline a bit, but you were interested in volunteering. You couldn't sit on one of these subcommittees per se, but you could still volunteer at one of these events if you're still around and want to do that.
Sure.
So, just to confirm, all of these subcommittees meet during September, but if we were gone for that, would we be able to join any of these?
If there's a subcommittee so let's see, all of these are meeting before. I would say feel free to join any of the ones. Don't worry about the September needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because they all have the tour, the Everything Electric, and the swap. They all have things that are happening before June. So
Yeah.
if you select one of those, you'll end up participating. So yeah,
Okay,
great
cool.
questions.
All right.
Thanks. So Chair, I was going to suggest that you state each of the, so they're down here, each of the commissions and request that commissioners maybe raise their hand to say, are you interested in this? Go through the list to kind of gauge how many are interested in each topic. I did want to note that Dave was interested in either the tour or the reuse swaps. So
Okay.
I'll just throw that out there, but
Okay.
does that help?
Sure, that makes sense.
Okay.
All right, let's have a show of hands, excluding myself, or I guess I'll be the last one, that would like to be on the planning subcommittee for the Everything Electric event. Show of hands. One, Michael, myself, is that one too many? Diane,
Yep.
sorry.
Sorry, I meant to note, if you really want to, you can serve on 2 subcommittees. So I'll throw that out
Oh,
there.
you can.
I
Okay.
would say give everyone an opportunity to at least be on one and, potentially the one that they want the most. I think we would have 2, 4, 6. So all committees should have at least 2. One will have 3 if everyone wants to be on a committee. Amanda is not here. I have not polled her. So she might want to be on one. I also didn't note, not everyone has to be on a subcommittee either. So if you're someone, has kids, works, goes to this, totally understandable. If you just want to volunteer at an event and not actually be on a subcommittee meeting, totally understandable and not a requirement. So again, minimum for each could be actually 1. The ideal scenario would be 2. So there's a bit of discussion, but I hope that helps a bit.
Yes.
Okay.
It does. So we have two for sure. You could put me down as an option of third for the Everything Electric event. So you have your notes. So if we'll go on to the reuse subcommittee. Who would express an interest in being on the planning of the reuse committee? We have 2 commissioners volunteering for that. That would be great. Thank you very much. Our third committee, or subcommittee, I should say, for tours is for tours. We have Dave, who has expressed strong interest in being part of that. Is anyone else expressing a strong interest for that? If not, I would.
Okay. Great.
So we have 2 then.
Wonderful.
I think that concludes that discussion.
Ms. Thomas,
Sure,
do
I'm
you
not sure how-
just want to summarize?
I'm not sure how relevant this is, but when I talk to Sarissa or if city staff talks to Sarissa, and if it's possible that I can still serve on the committee going forward, then I'd like to do my part. And if there's an option for one of the subcommittees, I'd go for the tour subcommittee.
Okay,
That sounds great.
that's fine.
And
I can certainly give you the spot, Commissioner Henry, and well, we'll see what the decision is from city staff, and then we'll proceed from that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for continuing to offer your expertise and assistance.
And Ms. Sutherland asked me to summarize my notes here. So I have for Everything Electric, I have Michael and Diane with Brian as a fill-in as necessary. Reuse, Ashley and Ellen, and then tours, Dave and Brian and Matt, if that's okay.
great.
That's correct. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. That concludes all the regular agenda items. Oh, sorry, Chair, were you?
Yeah, I'll make my
Yeah.
my comment there. There are no more questions for Ms. Sutherland, so since no one is registered to comment, I will open and immediately close the public input portion for this agenda topic. This is informational. You solicited some feedback from us, so that concludes item 5C. We will move to item 6, which is report from staff. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Just a few general staff updates. Our next Sustainability Commission meeting will be on Tuesday, March 17th. This year, all regular meetings are every other month on the third Tuesday of the month. So, that meeting, we will again review the Sustainable Minnetonka Award applications. There will likely be another item, but that one is for sure slated for that. Related to that, the April 20th meeting, it's on a Monday, that's the City Council meeting. That's where the Sustainable Minnetonka Award winners will be recognized. So you're all invited to that. I believe we would just have to maybe post it as an open meeting for the commission. But if you're willing to come, last year we did a group photo with all the winners and the sustainability commissioners. So it was a really great time. So I encourage you to mark that on your calendar if you're available. Let's see, review the well, we already did this, but I just wanted to acknowledge that the January through March ambassador items are noted in that schedule. So know that I will start posting those again on the Sign Up Genius, so stay tuned for that. And related to that, again, I have been receiving some requests from commissioners about like research opportunities or things that people want to participate in outside of the commission that really haven't been offered on that Sign Up Genius opportunity. Right now, we've been very focused on just events. So I'm going to throw options up on there. Feel free to sign up if you're interested, but know that they're completely optional. I'm just going to start putting more on there. And on a related note, I'll post those on the Friday e-news. I know I have not been as consistent in sending those out as of late, but it's a new year and I'm committing to being more consistent. So you can hold me accountable to that. So those will all go out. If I have new Sign Up Genius opportunities, I'll make sure that those go out on Fridays too. So
Very good. Thank you.
yeah.
Anything else for item 6?
No, that's all.
Very good. We will move on to item 7, which is a report from my fellow Sustainability Commission members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report or comment on? I'm asking Ellen, Michael, do you have anything?
Oh.
Michael?
So I'm not so sure if I should do this in other business or not, but
That's all right.
I do write for, so if you could just take one, I'll pass it down. I do write for the Minnetonka High School newspaper, and I recently, in a previous issue, wrote about the sustainability awards that we have, and sort of working with Ms. Sutherland about sort of just advertising it to students it's on page 10 of the second to last one.
Thank you.
Yeah, sort of just like advertising the Sustainable Minnetonka Awards and urging people that if they have done projects to apply before March 6th for the Sustainability Awards. And so we don't really have any metrics that we use for our readers, but we do, or I do expect more sort of applications this upcoming award cycle. So just wanted to update the commission on that in terms of outreach for students and connections with the community.
Thank you very much. That was very appropriate. I appreciate that. Any other comments at this point? If not,
This is incredible and very timely.
Yeah,
And I recall you said that everyone in the school picks up a copy, and
Yeah, it's
actually it's read.
yeah, it's plastered on the
So you have
the halls
now
as well.
done outreach for
us.
the whole,
Yeah, of course.
whole
Thank you.
city of Minnetonka.
Yeah.
I'd like to give you some virtual knuckles from over here, too.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ingham gave you physical knuckles, but over here, too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that reminds me, there's also a website version for this, so we have a website and the physical copy as well. And then we sort of try to give these newspapers out not only in the school, but also in like local libraries and other places as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Patain?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, so hopefully we can make sure that we include in the minutes link to the virtual copy. And then, is it a byline? Is that what it's called? Look, I'm not. A win for the environment for those who are watching at home, which is probably, just a handful of you. But that is such a good, tagline, a win for the environment. Like, I love that. So that is very, very nicely done. So we appreciate your work in, spreading the word. Hopefully we get to see some, the fruits of your labor and see some more applications come in.
Hopefully, yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
I echo that. Thank you very, very much. I have one other comment just to make. It's more for awareness for my fellow commissioners and for anyone who's watching tonight. I wish it was really positive. It's rather unfortunate. I wrote down a few notes. I'll be very brief. The federal administration is finalizing its repeal of a foundational scientific determination that underpins the United States government's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. An announcement is expected within the next couple of weeks. It's most unfortunate. I've said this before. The federal government is not supportive. They will not be supportive unless there's a change in administration at the next presidential election. Fortunately, Hennepin County is supportive. City staff is supportive, and the state of Minnesota is supportive. So we just simply need to be aware of that, and it's most unfortunate because it will impact the younger members of our Sustainability Commission compared to some of us that are not so young anymore. Anyway, that is what I wanted to say. I just wanted to convey that from an awareness perspective. It's rather unfortunate to see that, but it's not surprising. With that, I want to move to item 8, which is other business. I am asking if there's any other business that anyone cares to share. I do not see anybody clamoring with other business, so I will move to item 9, which is adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Oh,
I'll
is there
second
a
the
second?
motion.
There's a second the motion. Ms. Sutherland, would you poll the commissioners?
Henry,
Yes.
Ingham,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Patain,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Chair Golub.
Yes, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.